I'm Tamika Tate with Fidelity Communications, Local 6. I'm standing here with Miss Mary Nash of Nash Law Firm. And what are you talking about today, Miss Nash?
I'm going to talk about the pleasures of doing elder law.
And for your staff, how many is it on your staff that came with you today as well?
Okay, we have 4 paralegals and a pupalegal. That's a little poodle that stays at the office and handles security and client entertainment. Okay, and then we have 4 attorneys in our office.
And is their specialty as well the elderly law?
Yeah, elder law, and that includes wills, estate planning, all of those kinds of things. And Casey, one of our attorneys, does a lot of real estate work and business work, and Evan Bell, who's one of our attorneys, handles adoptions and family law.
And how would someone who would like more information get in contact or be able to come by and see you all about their well-being?
We're at 103 Park Drive here in Maumelle. You can also go online. We have a website online as well.
Thank you so much, Mary Nash, Nash Law Firm.
Well, at this time, I want to introduce our next speaker, Mary Nash. She started her legal career in 1976 after graduating from Nova University in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
At 9 years old.
At 9 years old, absolutely. Previously, she received her bachelor's degree in social sciences and a master's degree in public administration from Florida Atlantic University. After law school, she was awarded a postdoctoral legal master's degree in international finance from Georgetown University. Then, but that wasn't enough. In 1993, she relocated to Arkansas, where she has remained since. Mary has practiced in the area of elder law and estate planning for over 30 years. In that time, she's created thousands of irreparable and special needs trusts. Mary has also handled numerous guardianships and veteran benefit issues and regularly counsels families on saving assets and qualifying for Medicaid. She is licensed in Arkansas, Florida, Colorado, and Indiana, but currently lives right here in Maumelle, Arkansas, with Pup Legal. Mary Nash, thank you.
Thank you. Let me take a minute, if I could, and introduce the most wonderful staff in the world. My paralegals are here with me today. The pupalegal is not. Connie stayed back with him. But if I could, Phyllis, would you and Shallon stand up? Phyllis and Shallon, the best paralegals in the world.
Here, here.
And if I may, I'd like to introduce 2 of the attorneys that are here with me. Evans and Court, where attorneys are supposed to be, and couldn't be with us today, but Casey Ziegler is here. Casey does a lot of course we all do elder law work, but she also does a lot of real estate work and a lot of business work as well. And Roger, of course everybody knows Roger Harry. We're so fortunate to have Roger join us. We are just tickled to death to have him because he just knows everything. So, you know, I like having that, having him around.
That is now documented and
I put some brochures on the tables. I'd like to just take a minute and talk a little bit about elder law. Let me say this. I tell everybody, I'm an elder law attorney. I'm not an elder lawyer. So, you know, that I want to make sure that you have that distinction in spite of what you said.
veteran member.
I want to share with you a couple of these brochures, if you would join me in looking at them, please. The one about the VA aid and attendance pension. So few veterans know that there is a pension for having served. And I tell people all the time, I love doing VA work because I don't speak German and I don't speak Vietnamese, thankfully, because of the military. And when you think about how fortunate we are to have the military that we have in this country, and people who serve, and you know, they're gone from home, and they do things that I don't want to do. And when they reach their later years, the VA has a pension for them. If you're over 65 or disabled, but over 65, you're considered disabled by VA. We were speaking one time in Conway, and we had a table of older people sitting there, and when the meeting was over, they didn't get up. They were kind of loud and disruptive anyway. And when the meeting was over, they didn't get up. And so I walked over. I said, "Do you have some more questions?" And they said, "We found out when we came here that we're disabled, so we want somebody to help us out to our car." And but when you are over 65 years of age, if you have served 90 days active duty, 1 day of which fell within wartime, and get an honorable discharge, you're entitled to a pension. People don't know that. It's $2,100 for a couple, tax-free, $1,700 for a veteran, $1,100 for the surviving spouse of a veteran. And I had a man in my office the other day, and I was telling him it's $1,700 for a veteran, it's $2,100, and he looked for a couple. He looked at me and he said, "Lady, it ain't worth $400 a month." So you might think the same thing, but what we're talking about here is a free service that we provide as a law firm. The Veterans Administration does not allow us to charge for this service. Where we can put together, and Shallon does almost all of this. She is our VA expert. We put together the application free. Of course, you have to collect all the stuff that they require, but we put together the application free, send it in. Takes about somewhere between 8 months to a year for the veteran to get his money. It's retroactive back to when we apply. For the spouse of the veteran, it'll run about a year to 14 months. But as I said, it's retroactive. So many veterans don't know about this, so please spread the word and feel free to tell people, if you served 90 days active duty, 1 day of which fell within a wartime period, you don't have to have been in the actual war, just have to have been in the service during the period, and then have an honorable discharge, you're entitled to a VA pension. Now, they're just like Medicaid. There are some restrictions. You're limited in resources and you're limited in income. But Shallon has figured out a way around almost every bit of that. So, we know that we can help almost every veteran or spouse that comes in our office. And of course, we also do a lot of Medicaid. That's pre-planning. As Ollie begins to get older. Okay, and the rest of us begin to get younger. As you begin to get older, as our clients begin to get older, one of the number one concerns they have is what happens if my health fails. Where will I be? Who will take care of me? I had a lady come in the other day and she used a term that I had never thought about before. And we've written a second book, and we've got a few of them here. Somebody wants to buy one. They're $20. This is our second book about estate planning. This is just a primer on estate planning, and it's a couple of years old now. But if you are interested in learning pretty much everything you need to know to do your own estate planning or to think about how you want to do things, please feel free to get one of our books. But I was looking at starting my third book, and this lady came in, sat down, and she says, "I'm an elder orphan." And I said, "What? An elder orphan?" She has no parents surviving, no children. Okay. Who's going to take care of me when I'm old? Who's going to take care of my money, my assets? Who's going to make decisions for me when I'm old? Those were her questions to me. It was immediately my chapter in the next book, because we have so many people who come in our office who have no family. And we don't think about that. I'm an only child. I have 2 children and 1 grandson. When my son was about 35, I was encouraging him to get married and have children and have children. The marriage part, at that point, I'd given up on that part. And he said, "Mom, if you want more grandchildren, go get some for yourself." So I ran out into the world and found myself about 12 more that I just kind of adopted. And so I have as many grandchildren as I want. And as they grow up and leave the nest, I'm going to keep adopting the younger ones because they're more fun than the anyway. But when I started thinking about this lady, had no children, nobody to see her through the later years of her life, and I thought, that's a whole book, but it's going to be a chapter in our new book. Everybody that comes to our office comes with a different idea, a different plan, a different thought. And so when people talk to me about estate planning, they talk about themselves. Me, my wife, my 2 kids, my grandkids. I tell everybody, if I could have figured out how to have the grandkids without having to go through the kids, I'd have gone there first, okay? Most of my clients feel the same way. And almost everybody has the idea, and our book talks about helping hands across time, keeping family money in the family, okay? Everybody kind of has the idea that what I have, I want it to go to my children. Not that I don't like my in-laws. Okay, my son-in-law passed away 9 years ago, and he used to call me with blonde jokes all the time. I don't know why, but he would call me with blonde jokes, and before I hung up, and I never would laugh, and I would always say to him, "Keith, son-in-laws are a dime a dozen. I was looking for one when I got you." And, but almost everybody, I love my son-in-law, I kid about that, but he was wonderful. He adored my daughter, was a great father, and I hated to lose him. But like almost everybody that comes into my office, I didn't want him to get my money. I wanted to go to my daughter, my son, my grandson, okay? that's the way my clients think almost all the time. And so they come and talk to me about that. Who are my heirs? I have step children. I have step grandchildren, blended marriage. I want to make sure that both sides of the family are represented. And that's what we do. We talk to people about, what do you want to do? Tell me what your concerns are. I have said this a number of times in my career. This is the best job in the world. It's the best career anybody ever had. Being an elder lawyer is absolutely the best that there is in the practice of law. Why? Because every day I go to the office, I know that today I'm going to do something good for somebody. The kids aren't always happy with me, but they didn't pay me. So, but it's amazing to me how people think about their families. Family is just number one. It's just the number one thing we think about. What happens if something happens to me? What happens if something happens to me and I have small children? Who's going to raise them? And we always say, divide the kids and the money. Okay, you got somebody handling their money, you got somebody raising the children. Don't put the two together. Or they'll be living in $1 million home that you can sell them out on the river, okay, with the kids' money and driving an Escalade. So you want to separate the kids and the money. Okay, so who do you want to raise your children if something happens to you and you have young children? Who's going to do that? You're the one that gets to name that. Who's going to do that? Now, you nominate that person, the court appoints them, of course, but you get to make the court aware of what you want. And then who's going to take care of the money? And how's the money going to be spent? When's it going to become available? There's nothing worse than there's nothing better than an 18-year-old with money as far as buying friends is concerned. Okay? I just don't want to use my money. My grandson just turned 18, okay, last week. And when he turned 18, the first thing he did was borrow his neighbor's jacked up pickup truck to drive to school, because that was his 18th birthday and he wanted to drive the big pickup truck to school. And I heard him coming when he left Maumelle High School to the office. And what was he coming to the office for? It was his birthday and he needed money, okay, to go get his full driver's license. It's the only thing he could think about. And he wanted to take his girlfriend out to dinner. And he wanted to, and so naturally, straight to the office he comes. When I want him to have everything I've worked for my entire life, as wonderful as he is, absolutely not. Okay, absolutely not. He'd have a $80,000 jacked up pickup truck, okay, with my money. And so you think about those kinds of things. When do I want my grandson to get it? Well, I want it to be immediately available to him for education. If he needs money for education, I want to be sure that he gets money for education. He's not going to get a scholarship. My son-in-law's DNA kind of melted down my daughter's intelligence. And he's not as bright as my daughter. That's what I'm trying to say. And he's not going to get a scholarship, so where's the money going to come from? Well, if I wasn't here, I would certainly want him to have enough money to go to school, to do what he wants to do. I want him to be successful. I want him to be happy. So I would want him to have money to go to school. Money for other things, maybe health insurance, money for getting transportation to get back and forth to school. The kinds of things that I would want to be sure that helped him get along in life. But have control of it, not going to happen, okay? So who's going to control it? Okay, that's a question you have to ask yourself. Who's going to control it? If you have kids under the age of 18, when are they going to get their money? And when are they going to be able to control it completely? That's a question. And then you've got kids who don't get along. Now, I know this comes as a complete surprise to everybody in this room, that their kids don't get along or won't get along, okay? I had how long was it yesterday? 4 hours?
4 hours. Yeah.
Then I was in a conference room yesterday with 4 kids fighting over giving one sister something extra for having taken care of her mother for 14 years, okay? And the brother said, I'd have taken care of her. But you moved her off to somewhere else. Well, did you go visit? Well, that was too far. Okay. The other sister, I brought her breakfast a number of times. The other sister, the sister who took care of her, worked a full-time job and took care of her mother full-time. Okay. I mean, at night, all night long. And they didn't want to give her anything extra. So I was what would you call that? The moderator, the mediator? Okay. Referee. I started off by saying, greed is an insidious sin. I don't care who wrote the Bible, they forgot to leave out number 1 sin, greed. Let's leave greed aside. And those words fell on deaf ears. But most of the time, what we find with people is there, they say to me, and to Casey, and to the judge, and our children won't fight. I star the folder in the corner because I want to be able to say to the kids, you know what this star right here means? It means your parents said to me, my children won't fight. I'm ashamed of you. And they said, well, I don't care, I still don't want my sister getting more money. So, you know, but we're aware of those kinds of things. We're aware when people come into our office after their parents have died, and I told somebody I'm going to write another book called The Psychology of Grief. They come into my office, they lost their last parent, their second parent is now gone. First of all, they're an orphan, okay? Really think about that. Your parents are gone, there's nobody to call with your victories, nobody to call when I don't feel good. You know, Mama would always say, poor sweet baby, even though she was in North Carolina and I was here, you know. I felt better after I talked to Mother, even though she wasn't here. We don't have that anymore, okay? So Mother's gone. Well, I'm a little bit mad because my mother died to start with, but can't be mad at my mother because, you know, she died. But I can be mad at my siblings, especially if one of them got something that was Mother's, okay? Mother always wore that ring. Daddy always hammered with that hammer or shot with that shotgun, okay? And my brother got it. My sister got it. And if I had gotten it, I'd still have just a little piece of Mama or a little piece of Daddy. You know, I could always remember Mama wore that. Daddy used that. I saw Daddy and I hunted with that. Those kinds of things. But my sister got it, and she kicked me when I was little, and I hated her all my whole life. But Mother and Daddy kept us loving each other when they were here. They stayed in the middle. As I say to my children all the time, get along. You know, you're the only brother and sister each of you have. And that doesn't have to be at all. But, you know, they're going to, I'm not going to be here to say those words someday. And they may not get along. So when we think about family planning, and we think about who's going to get this item or that item, I'm very specific to say, okay, if you know there's going to be a family feud, we've got a place in the trust documents that we write, where you write down where you want that shotgun to go, or where you want, I say men only have 4 things. They have shotguns, golf clubs, tools, and fishing gear. Women have jewelry and knives and forks and spoons and glasses and linens, and we want those to go on. And so when you stop and think about planning, if you do absolutely nothing at all, okay, and we've got some things, though, there's some paper that we'll give you as you leave that says, if I don't do anything, what happens to my assets? Well, it goes through probate, okay? And the courts, we have a law that says it goes to your heirs. In other words, your children, your grandchildren, whoever survives you. Well, what happens if I have a will? It goes through probate. There's your ticket to probate. Now, Phyllis is our probate paralegal. Basically, Phyllis knows everything there is to know about probate. And so when any of us lawyers want to find out something, we go ask Phyllis. And Phyllis tells us what the law is and how we do it. And isn't that true, Phyllis? Yeah, that's true. And, Phyllis used to work at the Friday firm, and I asked her one time, do any of the lawyers at the Friday firm come to you and say, I don't know what I'm doing, Phyllis, can you help me? And she said, no, they always pretended they knew what they were doing. So I've been telling all the other attorneys, we have to pretend we know what we're doing, and or go ask Phyllis. But what we talk about with our clients when we sit down with them and talk about wills, a will take you through probate. What's probate? It is a court procedure. You file the will. Phyllis files the will with the court. She gets the executor appointed. That's the person that you nominated in your will. Not necessarily going to be that person, but usually it is. You know, every once in a while, one of your brothers or sisters hops up and says, she isn't capable, and I'm going to fight about it. And then there's an ad in the newspaper, and it tells everybody in the world, we have opened a probate. Come now with all your claims and anybody that they owe money to, and come and make all those claims. And we can't do a thing for 6 months. The estate just stays open, right? Well, once that period has passed, that 6 month period, we're usually 8 months into the time period at that point after death, and nothing has happened to the estate. In other words, it's still sitting there. Well, what happens to my house? It's just sitting there? It's just sitting there. What happens to my rent houses? They're just sitting there too. Who's collecting the money? Well, we expect the executor is, but you know, what do they do with it? Well, they have to put it in an account. Okay, then after that, what happens? Well, then she does the accounting, which is, this is what the assets are, this is what is owed, and, you know, we get the court's blessing. We're usually somewhere from death to a year getting it out to the heirs. Well, yeah, but I want my money faster than that, most of the heirs. You know, I want it the day Mama dies. Some people miss the funeral to go home and get the stuff that belongs to the families while everybody else is at the funeral. Yes, we've had that happen. Phyllis is nodding her head. Yeah, we've had that happen on more than one occasion. Okay, and sometimes they go to the house while Mom was still in the hospital to get the stuff, before she died. And then we talk about trust. Okay, all the wealthy people have always used trust to do their planning. The Rockefellers, the Kennedys, the Warren Buffett and the Waltons. And, they use, people talk about estate taxes and those things. By the way, to have an estate that is taxable at death today, you have to have $5.45 million. Okay, for a couple, that's $10,900,000. I'm single, in case anybody in the room didn't know that. And I've been dating Alicia's
I was just
father.
saying, wait a second, that's not true.
And her boyfriend,
Oh, yeah,
because she
yeah.
made me mad not long ago. But I am always looking for the single taxable male, okay, in case, they want to get their estate planning done. And they should, to be taxable, they have to have more than $5.45 million. If anybody knows anybody like that. And I prefer someone for whom I would be a trophy wife. 90, something like that. But when we talk about estate planning, what we're talking about here with a trust is I'm gonna retitle everything I own into the name of the trust, which is my name, husband and wife, usually husband and wife, trustee. Okay. There are three characters acting when we do estate planning. There's the trust maker, the people who are making the trust. They're always going to be the trust maker. Then there's the trustee, that's the person managing the trust, usually the same people, okay? But they won't always be the trustee. There will come a time in our lives when we are not competent or capable of managing any longer, and we name a successor trustee, someone we trust. That's the person who's going to make decisions for us as we move along in life. And then there's the beneficiary. Well, I'm going to be all three when I start my estate planning. The trust maker, the trustee, and the beneficiary, the revocable living trust, all right? And so I won't always be the beneficiary. Someday those people that I love, that I have named, will be the beneficiaries, okay? So when we write an estate plan, we say to you, okay, what is your goal? What do you want to accomplish? What are you trying to do here? Okay, I want to make sure my children are comfortable. I want to make sure my grandchildren have something. And so we write the trust based on that. Okay. Now, if it is a taxable estate, we might do some other things like a family limited partnership or some limited liability companies. And, there's all kinds of things we can do. A lot of discussion about estate taxes and estate tax planning. We've heard that they're going to eliminate them. We've heard they're going to lower them. We've heard we're going to raise them, all that kind of stuff. Two things to think about. Number one, dead people do not complain about paying taxes. And number two, they don't vote. Okay, so they can do whatever they want to do with estate taxes. Now, their kids get upset about it, but that's out of the question. We don't worry about it. But think about it. Wealthy people hire us. Okay, we do estate planning, estate tax planning, and we see that people like the Waltons don't pay taxes. We set up private foundations. We set up public foundations. I mean, we know what we're doing. So we do estate planning to eliminate the payment of estate taxes in the event a couple has more than $10.9 million. So when you're thinking about your estate, first of all, look at what have I got, okay? And what will serve me best, a revocable living trust. And younger people, somebody as young as Ollie and his family, guys, you're a good example. It was someone like Ollie, we would do a revocable living trust for Ollie because he's got a young family. Hopefully he's going to live for many years. He may change his mind about who his heirs are going to be. So, we would recommend to him a revocable living trust. When we have clients who come in to see us that are beginning to get on up in years, usually in their 70s, they have two concerns. Not only where do I want to leave it, but what's going to happen to me later. 59.7% today, the statistics are, of us will die in either long-term care or in hospice care. And I'm not going to be in either one, so that raises everybody else's average here in the room. And when you stop and think about it, one out of every two will end up in a nursing home or in hospice care. Who's going to pay for that? Well, if you live in New York, I did a seminar for attorneys not long ago, and we were talking about Medicaid and the cost of long-term care across the country. In New York State right now, to be in a facility in New York State, it's $219,000 a year. Okay, Massachusetts is just about the same. Connecticut is real close. Ohio is $9,000 a month. Here in Arkansas, we're just about $4,500 a month on the average to be in a nursing home. Multiply that by 12. Then multiply that by 2.5 years, which is the average stay. Okay? Figure out, do I have enough money to pay for that, one in the nursing home and one at home? The reason that so many women are impoverished is because the husband, men aren't made out of quite as good a stuff, and so they die first. But they usually spend some time in a nursing home. The wife. There's one in every. This is the one.
Okay, do you have the cue card and everything?
Okay, but the man goes into the nursing home, the wife is at home. The bills at home continue to go on. Okay, the roof on the house has to be replaced, the hot water heater quits there, and there's money going to the nursing home every single month, okay, but she's at home. Shallon does all of our Medicaid applications, and when someone comes in and says, we're going to have to put Mom in the nursing home, I had a man come in the other day and said, Mom's going to go to the nursing home, I need to move her stuff over to my name right quick. Well, you can't do that because the Medicaid application, there's a 60-month look back. So what the Department of Human Services does is when you file that application, they look back over the last 60 months to see what you've done with your money. Did you give any away to the kids? Did you give any away to the grandkids? Did you, what'd you do with it? And, most of us are not planning 5 years ahead so that when your grandson comes and says, I need money for college, you write him a check for college, and you don't think about that being a gift that may come back, and you can't get on Medicaid until you have spent that amount of money. Before it's called a spend down, until I can get on Medicaid. So we have to sit down with our clients and talk to them about, what can we do? You can keep a house and be on Medicaid. You can have a car and be on Medicaid. You can have $2,000 in the bank and be on Medicaid. You can have a prepaid funeral, then be on Medicaid. So if you've got money in the bank and we need to qualify someone for Medicaid, we can improve the house, we can buy them a better car. We can get a prepaid burial, and so we can qualify them. So Shallon looks at what do they got, and who do we need to take care of? Is there a community spouse, someone living at home, or is both of them in the nursing home now, or one of them in the nursing home? How do we plan? If you plan ahead, that's not really a problem. Buy long-term care insurance. We tell every single client that walks in the door, do you have long-term care insurance? If you do, that's going to pretty much, take care of that fear if you've got long-term care insurance. And there's all kinds of, I don't do insurance, but I know a lot about it because I work with so many financial planners. Work with them and talk to them about long-term care insurance. If you don't have long-term care insurance, there's other things we can do. We do a lot of irrevocable trust. What's that mean? It is a trust in which you have named your beneficiaries, you cannot change them. So I can change trustees, so tick me off, whoever it is, and I'll take you right out of there. As my mother used to say to me when I was a little girl, I brought you into this world, I'd take you out. And everybody in the room's nodding, yeah, our mother said the same thing. And what I'm doing there is I'm setting up who's going to be my heirs. I'm not going to change it. I can change the percentages if they make me mad, but those are my heirs in irrevocable trust. People get scared of that. Irrevocable? You mean I can't change it? Okay, you got 2 kids. How many other heirs you planning on having at 78? Okay, so usually those are our heirs, and we know that going in. But we are planning ahead. If I can get their assets over into an irrevocable trust, and they're there more than 60 months, when I apply for Medicaid, I'm going to qualify and have all my stuff. Okay, so there are ways that we plan that we know can satisfy the needs of our clients. They just have to come in and sit down with us, and the consultation is free, please know that. And we usually are an hour and a half with them, going through everything they own, how they want it set up, who they want to leave things to. I tell them, if it's a husband and wife, we always tell them in advance, we represent the 2 of you. You have to understand if you come back later with some complaint against the other one, there's nothing that we can't represent either one of you. We're very plain about that. I always tell them, if you tell me something in confidence, I will tell the other one, or you will tell the other one. That really got the guy that came in after 42 years of marriage with his lovely wife. And he called me the next day, and he said, I didn't know whether you noticed or not, but my wife pretty much does everything I tell her to it. She won't read this if I tell her just to sign it. So I want to put something in there about to take care of my 4-year-old son. And I didn't get to do the divorce because I was representing both of them. But I said to him, "Are you going to tell her or you want me to tell her?" And he said, "Oh, we're not going to tell her." And I said, "Didn't you hear what I said yesterday?" Okay, and as I said, I didn't get to do the divorce that came about as a result of his 4-year-old child. But things like that, tell me up front. Tell me up front. Tell me all your secrets. Tell me up front. And when you sit down with us and you talk to us about your life and the things that you want to accomplish in life, the rest of your life, how you want things done, how you want things left, those things are confidential. They're very important to us because we want to make sure we do the plan right, that you're satisfied with it. And the way we work is we take all the information. It takes us 2 to 3 weeks to write a plan, depending on whether it's revocable or irrevocable. We have the client come back in. We sit down with them. We go through it. We get it signed and in place. We call it a signed draft. We're then going to send the client home with homework so that they read and study and go over it, and they come back again and say, "I don't like this, fix this." Once in a while, Phyllis or Shallon will have a little typo in something. It's never me. Never the judge either. Right, judge? It's not us. No, sir.
All right, you're up for 5 minutes.
And so, you had a question?
For 5 minutes, and then we start taking questions.
And so when we're doing the plan, we want the client to understand what we've done. Okay, you going forward, you have got to keep everything in your name, comma, trustee. So if you sell this house and buy that house, how do you want the deed to read? My name, trustee. Okay, if you open this account, the bank will ask you, how do you want this to read? My name, trustee. Okay, I always tell my couples, pretend you got married and changed your last name. You're now Mr. and Mrs. Trustee. Okay, so everything you own is going to be owned in your name, trustee. Therefore, when you pass away, okay, there's nothing to go through probate because you don't own anything. You go through probate when you die owning something, okay? If you have life insurance, we make the trust the beneficiary of the life insurance. Can the husband spend it afterwards hunting for the new wife? Well, sure he can, but he can't give it away. He has to give it to your kids. That's the important thing. The trust becomes irrevocable, even the revocable trust, after one party dies. It's a contract between husband and wife. This is the way we're going to leave our assets. We agree. Once one contracting party dies, the trust is irrevocable. Okay. Do I have questions? Okay. We go through this really fast, I know, but surely you have some questions.
I guess one of the things that I would like to point out, of course we do use your firm, that I am an only child, but it was important that my father set up the trust. And even if you are an only child, because it still will go through probate.
That's right. That's exactly right. Because people think, well, I've got a will and I don't have a one child, so it ain't going to be a problem.
That's kind of what our perception was.
Exactly. And Casey worked with her father, set up everything so that we're sure it's going to go to protect her if something happens. We usually set up for the children what we call sub-trust. And if, for example, her father would have set up a trust for her. If something happens to him, it goes in trust for her. She's in charge of it, of course. But we say to her, if you will leave it in the trust that your father created for your benefit, lawsuits can't get it, creditors can't get it, your next husband can't get it, okay? Even if you don't.
The last one and the next one?
Neither one of them. Okay? Remember, every spouse has an elected share, and you can't just inherit a spouse, in the other spouse's property. If it's a second marriage and you think, well, I got all my stuff over here, no. Your husband has a right to a percentage of your estate, okay? So, we don't, her daddy doesn't want her next husband to get anything. He wants his grandchildren to get it. So we set up a trust for her. It's protected. If she ever went to the nursing home, they can't get it because it's a third-party settled trust. Or somebody besides her made it. And if she has to file bankruptcy, it is not part of her bankruptcy assets. So he has taken care of her not only during his lifetime, but during her lifetime, and then on down to his grandchildren in trust for them, so they have money for education, et cetera, et cetera. So all these things that we do for the benefit of the family, keeping family money in the family. Okay, other questions, comments, anything?
When does the trust dissolve?
Okay, when all the money's gone. Okay, the Rockefeller.
5 generations away?
It can last, how long can it last, Casey?
I feel like I'm first year property.
That's exactly right. So every
90 years after the
death of
measuring line.
That's right. So if you had a grandchild that was born right as you died, it would be for the child's lifetime plus 21 years. Okay. So the Rockefeller Trust goes on, the Buffett Trust will go on, those trusts can go on. Normally it's spent within a generation or two. Okay, I spent the money, it's gone. Only 7% of the money normally. Only 7% of the money from grandpa gets to the great-grandchildren. So it gets split along the line. Okay. Other questions? Thank you all for having us here. We really appreciate it. And if you girls will give them one of those white sheets as we leave. And if anybody wants a book, we've got them.